Hey, Lauren, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Is this your first time being on this podcast?
Yes, my very first
Awesome. We're
time.
so glad you could make it. What have you been up to lately? Summertime? You got
Yes.
anything going on?
We've been really doing summer staycation things. So I have two young kids, 5 and 7. Actually, she just had a birthday. How could I forget? 6 and 7 now. I mean, we've been hitting up a lot of parks, super wild and crazy like that. We actually just had a dumpster in our driveway for about 2 weeks, just totally like heave hoeing all of the stuff that we don't want in our house anymore, including a ton of old toys and like other side of our basement stuff, which has felt just so amazing.
Did you think your neighbors thought you guys were doing like a construction project? You're like, no, we're
I,
just getting rid of stuff.
yeah, I mean, I did think that. But,
You're
um,
like, let's just tell them we're renovating. That's fine.
yeah, if anybody asked, nobody actually even asked. So I think they just assumed that. We did carry out 3 big things of carpet. So they could
Oh, okay.
have.
So that looks good.
Yeah. But we're like, we did our carpet when we moved in about 7 years ago. So it's safe to say we can get rid of this extra now. We'll probably just install new carpet if that comes to that.
Yeah. At this point, I think the remnants are probably toast.
Yeah, 7 years felt like a good amount.
When we moved into our house a couple of years ago, the previous owners had left their remnants, and it feels like the same thing. Like, why am I holding on to these?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't my choice of carpet anyways, and honestly, what am I doing here?
When we cleaned out the other side of our basement, we found new blinds over there, just extras in case any of ours, like, I don't know what, how do you break your blinds? Although our cat has been like nibbling on one of them. So I'm like, perfect. I just noticed it last week. So, we have a replacement if we need it. Things you find that you don't know.
I've heard cats really go at blinds.
Yeah, I just found out this week. Have to get some
My niece and
tips.
nephew spent the night last night, and they have a cat, and I was like, how's it going with the cat? And they were like, I mean, it's ruined all of our blinds, but otherwise it's fine.
That's so funny. Well, I like the affirmation. I thought maybe it was just our cat like whiling out.
No, my nephew Ben was like going on about it. He's like, first he got into this part of the blinds, and I thought that was it. And then the next day he was in this part of the blinds. Like, just kept going. I was like, whew, okay.
Oh, so is this podcast about cat stories?
No, I don't know anything. That's the only cat story I have. I don't know
Oh.
anything about cats. Oh, well, why don't you give us a little bit of info about your background, like, your education, maybe your first jobs, like what you were doing before you came to Sanctuary, that kind of thing.
Sure. So if we're going all the way back to first jobs, which don't know if we are, but I worked retail for a good amount of time, working my way through school and everything. Lots of stories there. But then went to Ohio University for college. I started out as an accounting major, but then I quickly switched over to marketing there, which is where my career is now. I majored in marketing. My current title is Director of Strategy for Sanctuary, but in between now and then, I also actually worked for a bank straight out of college. I'm doing mostly like new account sign up, which really got me some experience in sales at the time. And then I transitioned to a marketing coordinator position with a company called Communication Resources, which I grew into the director of marketing in that company. So really was charged with allocating our budget to meet our company goals. So we had a number of different publications. Within that company, we were in the church market there. And after I worked for Communication Resources, I worked for a company called Schiffler Equipment Sales as their marketing manager. We were in the education segment there. And then I actually have known Kelly Brown, who's one of the owners of Sanctuary, for a number of years because we worked together at Communication Resources. And when I was looking for a new job, he said, please don't look anywhere else and come work here. And I said, okay, I will. What do you say, Kelly? Aye,
Very
aye.
persuasive.
Yeah. No, but I just really liked the idea of having an entrepreneurial spirit in what we do here at Sanctuary. So as a strategist, is the position I was starting out. You have the opportunity to work with a ton of different businesses. We have 80 plus clients. So understanding what their goals are and what makes them tick, and being able to feel like we're making an impact in the community with all of those clients, to really help achieve their goals that trickles down into all of their employees, and all of that. So really, really love this job because of that reason.
And so, what your current role now is director of strategy,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
So, what does that mean, and what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
So what that means is I'm accountable to our clients' results. So we have a team of strategists that,
That felt like a canned statement you were ready to deliver.
you know what, it's on our accountability chart, and so it says that, and that's what I say. So it's pretty easy peasy there.
You have a tattoo of that, don't you?
Yeah. But what that more tangibly means is, so let's just give an example of yesterday. We had a new client come on board, and so we do a big intake with our clients to really understand what are your business goals, what are the problems you're facing now, what are your differentiators, what do you offer, like really digging into who they are, what their client personas are, so we can develop a strategy that's going to help them meet those goals. So as the director of strategy, I'm overseeing the team of strategists to make sure we're able to accomplish that across our clients globally, so not just on an individual level. So an individual strategist, we're talking to individual clients, and we each have our own portfolios, but from that overarching level, we can see trends that are happening across all of our clients. Where individually, you might have a problem come up, or an opportunity, or a potential like goal for a client. But in that broader director level, you're seeing that across all of our clients. So you're able to say, hey, you know what? This seems to be popping up with 20 to 30 of our clients. So I think this is a problem we really need to talk about globally and figure out. Potentially there's new product offerings, or there's just different things that we need to do to package up for our clients to help them better.
Yeah, for sure. I remember, Lauren and I used to be strategists together. It's been a little while now, but I remember, a couple of years ago, in my own portfolio of clients, just starting to notice when I was doing some reporting, that there was just like a really deep spike in traffic on like multiple sites on one day. It just made no sense. I was like, what happened here? And like when you see it on one, you're like, okay, like maybe it was just a weird thing. Maybe the client had something going on. But you start to see it on three, and you're like, is this weird? And then I know when we collectively got together, it was like, a handful of things that kind of surfaced, and it
Yeah, then
definitely
you're
helps.
excited about the problem. You're like, woo!
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
It's more meaningful that way, it feels like,
Yeah.
at least. Instead of just this like one like weirdo mystery that you have going on where you're like, okay. It kind of gave it some roots worth digging into, so that was cool.
Yeah.
What do you think the best part about being a strategist is?
I already alluded to it a bit, but being able
uh,
to really, oh gosh, I can't believe I did that.
Spoiler alert.
I know. Being able to really impact the community, and lots of different clients, lots of different companies around us, and their mission of what they're trying to do. So when our clients win, we feel like we're winning because we're an extension of what they are. The other part of that is I know a lot of our team members here all have very entrepreneurial spirits. So for one reason or another, didn't start their own businesses, but it gives us the opportunity to really bring new ideas to the table for our clients when they're strapped and busy. And they're not that they're not smart enough to do it, they just don't have time to do it all. So
Right.
being able to help in that way and be additional resources to help them either fulfill ideas they already had or bring new ideas to the table that in turn helps them grow is just really, really fulfilling thing to do for work.
Awesome. I kind of want to transition to something you alluded to before too, just that whole, seeing trends, especially as you work with a portfolio of your own clients, but then obviously with the other strategists that we have, and hearing about the things that are going on in their separate businesses. And I guess we should also say that at Sanctuary, we serve clients in all different industries. So it's not like we have, one niche where everyone we serve is a dentist. So we can really, so sometimes those trends aren't always, they don't always cross over the same, but sometimes they do. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. And, you obviously talk with a lot of clients, you oversee the strategy team. Are there any current trends that you've heard over the past year or so that are really standing out to you?
Yes, 100%. Um,
Oh, good. It would have been awkward if you were like, not really.
no, all done. The most significant right now that people are bringing up almost as an aside, in conversation, because we are a digital marketing company. So giving some context here first. So what we do most often for our clients is generate leads that can lead to sales for them. So in conversation, we talk to our clients regularly, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. And the pain point that has been consistently coming up as we've been chatting is like, man, we're just having so much trouble filling these positions. Or man, hiring is just a bear for us. Sorry, I haven't been able to get to this. I've been focused on trying to fill these needs, or I'm filling multiple positions now, so I can't get you what you need. So a lot of our clients were like, we can help with that. Like, we're not only here for lead generation. Yes, it's our primary thing we do for sales, but lead generation also translates to lead generation for job opportunities. So that has been really eye-opening, I think, to a lot of our clients based on that need. So like, oh, I just never thought of it that way. So that is something that's come up across industry, from different job titles, just all over from different positions. So yeah, I don't know. I can't say I'm surprised, but it just is interesting to see like life that you read in the paper or like articles online, all about the Great Resignation and all of that, really coming to light with our clients in actuality, with pain points they're experiencing.
Yeah, I know it's not like the first time we've ever run like quote unquote like recruitment type campaigns for
Mhm.
clients. I think that we've done it for a couple like in a similar vein of like, certain businesses are just harder to staff or they're harder to keep
Mhm.
the help or maybe they're entry level positions and those kinds of things that
They're
have
just
come up
so
naturally
funny.
over yeah, over the years. But it sounds like this is taking a little bit of a different turn because you're just hearing it across the board and almost seems like you're hearing it like as a happenstance of
Yeah.
like almost like small talk type of a vibe of we're not really chatting about this because we think you can help. We're chatting about it because it's like the thing that's going on.
Yeah, most of the time it is happenstance. So an interesting thing, we got a new team member a few months back, and I kind of went on like a client tour with her a little bit, as she was meeting new clients, and we were like bridging that gap of we've worked with you for a long time, but now there's someone new in the picture. So we were just kind of re-earthing that intake doc feel, asking them questions, so our team member Kathleen would feel confident in planning strategies going forward for them. And most of those conversations, hiring came up as a need or a problem that was in the way of other things that they wanted to do with sales. And honestly, to keeping them like fearful from spending additional money to promote themselves, and fear that they would get too many orders that they wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
fulfill.
Yeah. I mean, we
So
saw some of that stuff happen, I think, with like supply chain related issues, but then it kind of
Mhm.
seems like it's now turned into like we're happy with this business, but like I don't have the manpower to put into it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it is manpower. There is a lot that contributes to supply chain, because in manufacturing, they're down. A lot of our manufacturing clients are down like in their warehouse, and having people to fulfill orders, but equally they're down in the front of the house too, in
Mm,
administrative positions. So it really is kind of all over the board. And the interesting part is people are using recruitment, they're using recruiters, to try and fill that need. They're using temp agencies, they're using your like standard like Indeed, and all the websites that are your go-to, potentially even also LinkedIn. The thing that's interesting is people don't always think that you should be proactive in promoting your company, instead of
mm,
just reactive to people searching for positions. Well, yes,
mm,
that latter makes a lot of sense to do. Like that's people looking for a job, you want them.
sure.
But the change has been people really being open to changing jobs, much more so than they've ever been, even when they're currently employed, because they're
Mm,
looking potentially for a better cultural fit. They're looking for more flexibility. They're looking for things that you previously didn't need to promote about who you are. So we always are recommending like a two-pronged approach, where yes, you want to be everywhere they're searching, but you also want to be actively promoting yourself as a company and telling stories about how your culture is successful and who you are. Because really, in interviews now, you're selling yourself more than you are than the potential candidate is selling themselves. So it's
mm-hmm.
just been a really Big shift.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember a couple of years back when we were kind of partnering together on like our own marketing for ourselves, and we were really spending a lot of time figuring out like how to position ourselves on like social media.
Mhm.
And I remember one person that got hired back then. She actually provided that feedback of when I was looking around at other marketing places I could work in the area, and I came across your social feed. It just was very obvious to me about like who you were and what you guys were doing. We know we shared things about the team. We shared things about our client successes, and I think that
Mhm.
in the way that we talk about that, it shows what was important to us
Yeah.
as a business that made it attractive to her. Like, hey, I want to work there. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even think we were hiring at the time she reached out,
Right. Like
which was like a really cool thing. I mean, it was a couple years back, but yeah, it was a cool thing to see how doing some of those kinds of things can get you into that small group of places where people are like, hey, I want to work there,
yeah.
you know, like, and how do I get in?
Yes, 100%. And I was just going to add that a job description isn't enough anymore because when you're
Mm,
comparing job description to job description, what is going to be compelling for that person to want to work for you versus the next Joe Schmo down the street? You're not Joe Schmoes, but you know what I'm saying. Could have used better word there probably. And it really is culture that's the selling point. And the what's going to be most beneficial from a work-life balance perspective has been something that's been huge to pop up.
yeah, for sure. What do you have any insight? I mean, I know this isn't like your job to have this insight. I'm just curious because you've been exposed to it a lot.
Yeah.
If you have any insight on like what's maybe led to this trend of, you know, people looking around for different jobs, being difficult to hire, being difficult to retain employees that maybe you have had. Like, have you gained any insight as to what that might look like from across the people who you've been speaking with?
As far as why it's been difficult to hire.
Yeah, like what's led to it?
Yeah, so really like the pandemic was the driver of everything. So everybody got like pushed back and not everybody, lots of people got pushed out of their jobs into their home and it really was like a great wake up for people of like why am I doing what I'm doing? I think I read a stat recently that said in 2021 47 million people in the United States just quit their job. And also in 2021, 3 million people left the workforce completely because of things like work life balance and cultural fit and just finding a totally different, um, market, a totally different job completely that they were willing to work for. So it just has been a huge shakeup, and we're just still seeing repercussions from that. So this is the back end of people just still trying to find the right amount of labor, the right people to work.
I just had to Google when you said that stat. I knew that there were like over 300 million people in the US, but obviously they're not all of working age or they've retired. So I
Yeah,
was like, how many people work in the US? And in
yeah,
2019, it was around 157 million. So I mean,
yeah.
47 million is like almost 30%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
And I'm just not like making that up. I think I read it from like the U.S. Chamber or something like that. So you can
Well,
trust.
they probably just made it up, so it's fine.
Yeah.
It
I
does seem like
know.
a really hard number to report on. I guess I don't know what happens on the business side of a
Yeah.
small
So if
business,
that's
but I'm like,
wrong, you can blame them and not me.
but like you had mentioned earlier, I mean, it's you read all these articles, you know, about the Great Resignation and how you know it's so important for companies to maintain competitive on what they're offering, their culture, their you know hybrid facilities, and being able to work from home and make your own hours and there's all these places that can offer these like you know seemingly really attractive things so it feels like how do we stay competitive in this. So it just seems like it has been a hot topic
Mhm.
um, in the newspaper,
Yeah.
but not just in the news though. But obviously we're seeing it hit home because I would say what most of our clients are Northeast Ohio-ish
Yeah.
based, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. For
Um, and so, and I guess it's like I'm not. I guess we don't have necessarily a ton of expertise about what's happening everywhere else in the country, but definitely here we're feeling it in all different industries and all different company types and sizes, small,
sure.
large, you name it. It seems like it's on everybody's mind.
It's also very complex as well because it's not just getting people to sign up for an interview, it's getting them to actually come after that
Mm,
they have signed up. We hear that every single client. that has a hiring issue to get people in the door also has an issue to get people to actually show up to the interview. It's not just signing up for the potential interest in the position. Like, it's a toss up if they're actually going to show, whether it's a virtual interview or in person. It doesn't matter. I mean, we've experienced that ourselves. We've had a
Yeah,
number of positions up, and I had 2 no-shows. I mean, we hired 2 great people, but it took a while, and it was kind
yeah.
of shocking to me. I mean, people that I talked to the day prior, that I was like, "You coming? Yep, we're all good." And then, okay, what happened overnight?
I know. I experienced that a couple months ago with a person who, we had a position open for a little while, got some candidates that weren't like the greatest of fits, but still trying to like vet the situation and see what we've got. Got this applicant that I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. We found her.
Hmm.
Reached out like within probably 15 minutes of me getting the notification that she applied, which I'm like, maybe was coming on too strong. But she responded really quickly. She had a military background. She had a lot of background on what we needed her to. She was really interested in meeting. We've scheduled for the next morning, and that was it. No call, no show. Never heard anything ever again. And I was like, it was very disappointing, but also really shocking. Like I have not applied for a job in a really long time. I've been at Sanctuary here for 6 years, and even then I didn't apply to this job
Yeah.
necessarily.
I did the
So it's been
same
a
to you, as Kelly did to me.
yeah,
Can you come work here?
yeah. Lauren said you should work here, and I said okay. Which it wasn't quite like that, but you know what I mean. It's just been a really long time since I've been like up. I don't even know where my resume is, but updating your resume, putting yourself out there. But I just cannot fathom getting an interview scheduled somewhere where I applied and then just ghosting them.
Right.
That just so it was, I think that that's probably why it was really shocking to us when it happened because we're thinking, who does this? Like people
Yeah.
don't do this.
Oh yeah. And then come to find out, where I was talking about director of strategy role, like I'm hearing that from Kathleen's clients, from Griffey's clients, or a few of our
Yeah.
other strategists from my own, where they all have that complaint, or that problem of people not showing up. Then also, once they're hired, coming, and one of our manufacturing clients was telling us of like stories where they sometimes come for a day, don't come back after they're hired, or like partial shift and don't come back after lunch. They're like, we're not a bad culture. I didn't think, like, so what's going on here? So it definitely is a huge shift for a lot of our clients that we're trying to come in and really help that. So on the front end with leads, but then there's also the nurturing side that we're helping to talk through digitally. How do you help, once you have somebody on the hook for an interview, how can you continue to follow up and make it worth their while to show up? There's different, some of our clients take different approaches where they do one-on-one interviews. A lot of our clients have found great success with hiring events. So where it's more of a team-based approach, you provide, lunch and potentially like some other bonus type structures where if you come and you complete X, Y, Z on site, then it's more worth their while. So there's been a lot of different things that clients have tested. It's going to be different for every industry to see what works best for you, but we're very open to helping our clients test to see what that right mix is going to be.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I mean, you kind of started to alluding to it there, but like, what are the things from a digital marketing perspective? So we kind of already covered, like, most of the time people aren't coming to you and saying, Lauren, help me with recruitment, help me fill my positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's just coming up and you're like, hey, we can help with that. Like, in what ways can you shift digital marketing, which we typically look at as like a lead generation tool or, a closing tool for the actual business itself
Mm-hmm.
into almost like an extension of HR? What
Correct.
do we do?
Yeah. So we actually are working with the HR team as well as the marketing team for a lot of these clients. So it's coming from both perspectives. The reason being, typically our client is going to be the marketing director or a business owner. So they're usually the ones that have the keys to the website. So that's where that meld comes in. And a lot of what we start with is taking a really good look at the content on their site first to be sure they're showcasing themselves and featuring all the great things that they have going from a cultural perspective, from a benefit perspective, because it's not enough to just create ads to promote, because where are you going to send them to? You can't just
Right.
send them to a blank page that has a couple bullet points about a job description when people are most interested in culture in that fit for them. So a lot of what we do is really starting with taking a good look at their on-site content, and then building landing pages from there to drive people to that showcase who they are, what they do, in a really compelling way before we even start discussing an ad plan.
I could even imagine a part of that being, like testimonials. I'm thinking of it how we would typically position like a testimonial of like, buy our service. These people liked it. It's like, come work here. These people love it.
Yeah.
And getting that like, getting that like almost like a case study, but for the workforce, just to
Yeah.
say, this is who we are, why we're here, how long we've been here, what we love about it, how it's different than our other previous places we've worked.
We
Get some
actually have
advocacy going.
We have that happening for one of our clients right now. It was one of the clients on the client tour I mentioned with Kathleen that we went through, but we're creating video for that client to showcase their workforce testimonials, also to show their product being made and how organized they are and how great of a culture it is, and really getting that voice behind who they are, the passion behind why they do what they do. So it doesn't just get perceived as widget cranking. There's much more. Just like I said, for me, we're making a difference in a lot of people's lives here. And for all the companies we work with, they feel equally the same with what they're providing. It's not
Right.
just to create revenue. Yes, it's that, but it's also because you're creating something people really need. So telling that storytelling is so huge in digital marketing right now. But telling the story about yourself as a company is critical when you're trying to attract people.
I even think about like the bio pages that we have on our website for ourselves. I mean, we have
Yeah,
one for every single person who works here, which I don't think is super common.
yeah.
But we're a service-based industry. We think our people are a huge asset to what we do, and so it's helpful I think we look at it as helpful for our clients to see who we are as people, who
Mhm.
we are as individuals. I'm thinking about the things that are on our pages, and we talk through our strengths. We talk through funny things about us. There's a bunch
Mhm.
of pictures of like our family and friends. And while I think that it serves dual purpose, it kind of helps
Yeah.
showcase to your customers like who you've got working behind the scenes here, but it also showcases who, like, a little bit more of an insight into the culture, and
Mhm.
into like who the people are. Like, if I were going to work here, who am I getting into this with? Because I think that one of the things that is easy to overlook is that you spend a ton of time at work, and the people that you work alongside of really can make or break your experience in that 40-hour job that you're putting in every single week. And what you do leading up to coming to work kind of shapes your attitude about like how you're going to feel while you're here, and then as you go home, how your day went kind of shapes your attitude, how you're going to be there as well. So I think that there's just so much that I think people have reconsidered some of those kinds of things too, where you're like, this is just my job, it's fine. But then you
Mhm.
got sent home potentially, and now you've kind of had some time to reconsider some of that. And it's been, what do I really want? What am I really looking for? And honestly, it does feel like it's a little bit kind of like the real estate industry, how it's been
Yeah.
a buyer's market for so long, or a seller's market for so long. It feels like it's kind of switched that way. Whereas before, you applied for a job and you're feeling like, I'm at the mercy of this employer. And now it
Right.
feels like
No, it's totally swung around.
flip the script.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Go
was thinking,
ahead.
I forget what book that was from, maybe How to Be a Great Boss, but it's something I always have believed to be true is you don't quit your company, you quit your boss. And then the same way, it just shows how important culture is because that's ingrained and should be, strung through every one of the team members. And it just is even more important now.
So you kind of talked a little bit about getting a presence on the website prepared,
Mhm.
something worth showcasing. So after you have that, then what's the next step in how you're able to help people through that recruitment process?
Yeah, so really, really deeply understanding the audience that they're trying to attract is the next step before we even go to build any ads. And of course, you're doing that through the content creation process itself when you're figuring out how to best showcase the company as a whole. But then really creating the list of who you're trying to target so that then no matter what channel, you're able to communicate with them best. So specifically, you want people that have done XYZ potential jobs in their past, or they're in XYZ age range bracket, or all of those things to get a really great idea of that. So we dive in there. And then at a broad level, we like to have a presence where people are actively searching. So Google search is our friend. So we can identify, and like maybe that's a no-brainer to a lot of people, but I think for many of our clients, they just aren't approaching it that way, where they're going to the different job sites, which is a great idea. But when you're doing that, you lose a lot of search for people actively looking for jobs that aren't going direct to Indeed or LinkedIn to look. They're just generally searching to see what jobs are in their area. So Google search is always a part of that. We're creating like a key phrase list that's most important to them for how people are searching for jobs. We also use different Google products like Google Display that can also tap into those same audiences. We can upload lists there to do like matched audiences as well. So just really playing into that search.
When you say upload lists, are you talking like my company's got 2,000 people who work here. I'm going to take that and upload it to find people who look like them? Like, what are you talking when we say upload a list?
So like that. So you can display to people like that. Now, I will say that is not available for everyone. So don't go take that to somebody and say, well, I heard on this podcast that she said. So Google's still rolling that out totally. But so that's the one arm. But the other is really that brand, more of the brand exposure side, I would say, where you are actively pushing to people who might not be actively searching for a job, but they're in your ideal audience target. So it's both. Because let's say I'm disgruntled employee A at said company, and I'm not actively looking, but it's just because I'm too busy and I'm in the whirlwind and I haven't had time. But then pop up in my Facebook feed and I see this really amazing company with this video of all these people that are like, this place is the cat's meow. Does anyone say that?
Bring up cats again. You just wanted to bring up cats again. I mean, you wanted to make this podcast about cats, and somehow you're doing it.
It's a meld. It's a meld of, cats and whatever else. but yeah, so we've seen a ton of really great success, specifically like Facebook lead ads have worked really well. So those are ads where people can apply like straight within their feed, and also driving to the content that we've created on site. So for those of you that don't know, you can collect information from ads within the feed itself. So you can build your own form there. It just is one less step for people to have to go off site to click somewhere to read additional information. And then maybe at that time, my husband interrupts me or my kid needs something and I walk away and I forgot and now I'm gone. Where if it's in feed, you get to submit that information quickly. Some of that can already be fed in and then you're there. So I will say with those ads, a lot of times they don't convert as well as search ads do, but you get a higher volume of them. So they build your nurture pool. So you get that lead and then potentially then you have triggered follow-up after that keeps them in that pool. And maybe they're not interested today, but maybe like the person you were referring to that, really wanted to work for us because they liked our culture. We had to wait for that timing to get right. So we've seen a lot of success there as well.
It's interesting because the way you positioned the recruitment side of finding people, wanting to distract some people who maybe are currently in a position and maybe aren't actively thinking they need something different, or maybe they are and they're just not acting on it. Just reminds me so much of the two kind of arms that we would go with in our normal lead gen campaigns of people who are currently looking for your solution and people who are maybe, have settled on a different solution, but maybe we could distract them with this better offer.
There's this better thing they could or should be doing.
Expose them to some new opportunities. It's easy as human beings, it's just easy to kind of get set in our ways. And that's no different with a job. Making a job change was a really big decision. Now it seems like it's maybe taken a tad bit more lightly. But I think for most of us, it's your livelihood. Most people aren't working for fun. We're working for an income. We're working toward goals for our families. And, so it's not something that most people are taking super lightly, but it does seem now like people are more willing to kind of, take their other glasses off and maybe look through a new lens of, is this really serving me? Is it all about the money? Is it about the flexibility? Is it about the schedule? And so having that awareness element seems like it would perform so strongly in this kind of an environment.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, because it's a double-edged sword from what our clients are experiencing to then like we're kind of asking people to do the same thing in their own jobs, the grass is greener over here.
Yeah,
But they're, I think on average people are staying at jobs less than 2 years now. That's an older stat I read a while back, so.
that's tough though.
Yeah, and that's just not how I think. I personally think, but that is what we've been seeing. And honestly, in all the resumes that I've reviewed for our own positions we've been hiring here, it is just like 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years,
Hmm.
sometimes 1 year, 2 years. And I'm like, oh, that's like scary to me, but it is very, very the norm of all the resumes we've been getting. So I think it is very well within reason to think that you can entice people by showcasing a really phenomenal culture and a phenomenal work experience and really the benefit of how your company is impacting the community to
Hmm.
get someone to be interested in potentially making a switch.
Yeah. It's interesting. Something you just said made me kind of really resonate on perhaps this issue is escalating because more and more people are becoming aware of it, like on the employer side.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, what do we got to get ourselves out here. We got to find these people. We got to bring them in. And then that's causing that problem over here. And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to do something about this. And so it's kind of causing this ripple effect of change and motion. But I think the good part about that is that the companies who do have a strong culture and a good workforce and a good atmosphere and are selling a good product or service or something that you can really believe in are going to attract those right people.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just more of a kick in the butt to business owners, employers, HR departments everywhere, just to make sure that that's a true focus and not something that's just lip service, which I think, I mean, I worked at a larger company before. I know you have too. That I think sometimes when you're kind of in the realm of that, it can kind of feel like this is just what they tell you. They have to say
Right.
these things. Where when you're at a smaller business, you can kind of like see right through it. You're like, this is either real or it's not real, and you'll know right away.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because there's just going to be so much more perspective on those types of things when people are looking for positions.
Yeah. And so I do think that a lot of it really is going to translate to companies improving their own potentially internal processes and how they typically have, and even their own internal benefits to their own team
Right.
to
Yeah.
really reconsider, okay, maybe we haven't been the best. And maybe this is really forcing me to like look at ourselves in the mirror to say if we're going to compete in our area for the workforce, we really are going to have to like up our game potentially to get people to want to join.
Yeah, for sure. In your experience in working on the recruitment side of things with clients, are there certain industries that you're like, this is just a little harder to crack than others when it comes to trying to fulfill those kinds of positions?
I mean, not yet, honestly. It's kind of seems like everybody has pretty similar pain points. I think the from a retention standpoint, I would say that manufacturing has been a little more challenging, at least the
Hmm.
feedback from our clients, because there's really not like off-site arm of that position.
You're
So
right.
they have to go in. And so when they're comparing what wage they can make potentially by going in and creating this product here versus what they could do sitting at their own home, I think that has been a significant challenge unless people really enjoy that work or they really
Hmm.
believe in the company mission and that product. That's been more on the being able to retain and that more employee churn has happened with them, I would say, than other potential positions that we hire for. More on the administrative side has not been as difficult in the retention arm than manufacturing has been much more difficult.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it makes sense too. A lot of times those roles are more entry level, like where you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have a ton of training and you can kind of come in and get trained on the job. But then it feels like, well, you can go here and do that, but you could also just bounce over here and do that. So they could just be playing like wage wars too,
Mm-hmm.
of I can just go over here and get another $1.50 an hour or another $3 an hour, or oh, I don't have to work swing shift over here, and so
Yeah.
it's they're not as maybe not as committed to the type of position that it is, like you
And
might be in a professional role of I went to school to be this, and so this is what I am.
yeah, one of our manufacturing clients said that they compete a lot with Amazon, or that comes up a lot for them.
Yeah,
Like
that's interesting.
where they're like, well, we can make X, Y, Z with Amazon. Um, the manufacturing client said, we actually were paying a higher hourly wage. We had better benefits, but the flexibility that they got with Amazon as the example in this case
Hmm.
outweighed for them the wage and the how hard the work was that they were going to be doing, because they were like, Amazon was a cakewalk. So like, I'm going to
Sure.
do that, get paid a little less, and I'm okay with that because this is harder. I might make more, get better benefits, but I don't want to. It's like, that's eye opening. Like,
Yeah, it is. It is because I think up until more recently, it just really came across that the salary or your bring home income was like the number one, hands
yeah,
down, most important piece of the puzzle, period. And if you could get an offer for X number of dollars more somewhere else, you were taking it.
right.
And it was almost like a money chase more than it was a lifestyle or something that would make you not cranky or make you not so stressed out or whatever
Mhm.
all of the other negative impacts of potential work are, that the money could just outweigh that no matter what. And it feels like that's maybe taken a little bit of a turn. Yes, money's a priority, but also so is the quality of life and the, as much as you're able to enjoy it, how does that work out for you?
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts on the recruitment piece before I kind of segue us elsewhere?
Gosh. I mean, we're not going to solve that today. Sorry, everyone.
I guess
uh,
if nothing else, we hear you, we feel you, you're not alone.
Yeah, just that there are solutions, and digital marketing can be a big way to make an impact. And really, I guess the closing thought is you can't just throw spaghetti against the wall with this one. You really have to think through and start with your company itself first. What are we offering? Who are we? Are we who we want to be culturally? And if we are, and we're just not saying it, then you need to showcase it to the potential, applicant pool so they know, because it's not enough for you to know. They need to know, and they need to feel that your mission is important. You're making an impact, but you also care widely about your team members through your culture.
Yeah, I think that point of like the introspection on the company side is so critical because I think it's easy to just get caught up in what you're doing, and like what you're producing or what
Mhm.
service you offer, or whatever those things are. Get caught up in your sales numbers or the fact that you have to hire people and like kind of
Yeah.
lose sight of what are we really creating here, and not to like make this a thing about sanctuary, but I think that that's something that our owners have done like a really great job of prioritizing, is making sure that I think like one of the reasons they wanted to become business owners was because they wanted to be able to provide
Hmm.
for a team of people, to be
Hmm.
able to give everybody a lifestyle that they wanted to live, that they felt good about, or doing work that they feel good about. And so there's just definitely a mentality there that I don't always think is natural, even though I think just because it doesn't always come natural doesn't mean that I don't think it's rooted in there somewhere. I think
Right.
most people are decent people. I think most people mean well. It's just really easy to get caught up, and kind of put some of those things on the back burner thinking, oh yeah, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. And so this is kind of an opportunity for people to really take a fresh look of
Yeah.
how are we doing with this.
Yeah, maybe your manufacturing equipment isn't your most important asset. Maybe it is your team, because if you have the equipment and you don't have the team, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
Or
Um,
maybe you're not investing in your equipment and people are like, I'm tired of
yes,
working on this thing.
right, right.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting. I think like you could take those examples in so many directions. I'm thinking like in like a clinical office, like we just book patients way too back to back, like, and so people are just strung out all the time. Like I think
Right.
you could just come up with so many scenarios of those. And even as a consumer, like you're the customer in a lot of cases where it's obvious that this was a poor setup.
Yeah.
And so if we feel like that as consumers, the team that's serving you, they feel like that and they're humiliated and they're frustrated. And so it's how do you remove those obstacles from your team to keep them
Hmm.
happy and to keep your business happy, to keep your customers happy. So it's so multifaceted. It's interesting how it all kind of ties together.
Yeah.
I wanted to chat with you quick too about, we're halfway through the year, I guess a little more than halfway through the year now, TikTok. Was just curious what you have coming up on the strategy side of things here at Sanctuary. Like, what are you most looking forward to? What do you have?
Well, you know what? We are already talking to our clients about annual planning for 2023, which feels a little wild. You start the year and it's gone already. So, a lot of people are forward thinking. We have a lot of clients that are coming out with a lot of new innovations. There's new product offerings that are coming up. And even us internally as a company, are coming up with a lot of innovative things. So, we're supporting ourselves in marketing, but we also have a lot coming up for our clients and looking forward for their goals as well. I will say we do have an in-house event coming up about hiring, which just happens to be a good lineup with what we just talked about. So if that's something that's been a problem for you, please, reach out to us, because we do have an in-house event because we've seen so many issues and problems come up with our clients. We really want to be a support for the community to be able to help give more detailed tips, beyond what I was able to give today.
Yeah, sure. I think something that you said about, we're already making plans for 2023 is something that when I started working at Sanctuary just always feels, because we work ahead, it always feels like we're just the year is just ticking on through. I was putting together some stuff for a client before this, and it was all the way through September already. And it was makes you feel like you're in September, but it's nope, it's still July.
Yeah.
And so it can really make things speed along. But I think it's also so helpful that we're thinking ahead and thinking forward on it, because it gives us an opportunity to address those things that matter, to ask the questions, to create a good plan, to understand the needs of our clients, and really make sure that whatever we have coming up for them in the coming year and their strategy is going to be what's serving them, and not to just assume that their pain points last year were the same as their pain points this year, or that their revenue growth is going to need to be in that same funnel that it's been in, and maybe they have something new and they just haven't even thought to tell us.
Right.
So I think that you guys kind of go through that in that annual planning process, right?
Yeah, we go through all of that, and honestly, right now, something that we're really hot and discussing internally, kind of the same vein as with the hiring side, is inbound methodology, and really understanding each of our clients' personas, what they need, when can really shift. That same persona could have once wanted one thing 2 years ago that looks totally different now. So
Sure.
really understanding what those needs are in the marketplace, and how to not only drive them to our clients' websites, but once they're there, what value can we provide to their most important prospects to get them to exchange their information for resources that we can help our clients create. So those are what a lot of our discussions center around, is how can each of our clients be providing the best value on their site to their potential clients in order for that exchange of information to happen.
When you mentioned that maybe a persona that we had planned for at one point now wants something totally different, that just made me think of the whole workforce conversation. Things do change. I know sometimes we say people don't change, but sometimes we do. it's sometimes priorities change, and I think it's interesting because it's not always super obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You can think maybe results are just not as good as they used to be, and you're oh, who knows why. I mean, we don't take this approach, but as a business you could take that approach of who knows why. But it's well, there is a reason, let's find it. Maybe they don't want the same things anymore, maybe this is a dry market, maybe all of the different things. So it's nice to be able to take that kind of fresh perspective. It's nice to be able to set a plan in place and to be able to work it and not feel pivot, 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 pivot,
Well, from
because
that
sometimes that can get erratic.
Yeah, from that vantage point, so typically I would say our business can be pretty cyclical. End of the year, we're swamped with new clients because everybody is considering, what they want to do for the coming year. And summer can be a little drier from a new client perspective because, people are on vacation. They're doing things. But this year has just looked different, where we've gotten a lot more people kind of knocking on our door asking for help with digital marketing. So from that standpoint, we've actually had a lot of new client kickoffs going on, a lot of, I think I referenced that earlier, a lot of intakes happening finding information, finding out about, you know, our clients. A lot of research studies happening around our company right now, from like content strategy to analytics audits, to social audits, a lot of stuff like that going on around the team, you know, globally, because we have strategists on every account, but we also have, you know, experts in the company from different disciplines that always breathe a ton of insight into that strategy development. So the whole team is kind of like buzzing right now with a lot of activity. Some of it around hiring, you know, like we've been talking about, but a lot of it just centered around growth and clients kind of pivoting what they're doing, wanting to put a lot more emphasis on digital marketing because they're able to target better. They're able to, you know, provide a lot of value on their website more so than they could potentially, like with a direct mail campaign they may have relied on in the past. So just been like super busy.
And which I do think is interesting because that is a big shift for us. I mean, I even remember like in May, we were literally discussing we're going to go
Yeah.
into summer. It's going to be the downshift time of year. And, you know, well, let's get this, and this done because then that'll help us prep for quarters 3 and 4, which are typically more hectic.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we got like a tiny dose of that. And then it was like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So it's
We
definitely
also
interesting.
notice more of an uptick in e-commerce as well. Clients, you
Hmm.
know, where they may have been more lead generation focused solely before, are also like dipping their toes into the e-commerce trend. So I would say that's beyond a trend. That's just like where the things are headed. But anyway, we're seeing that from our clients, from new clients coming on board, that there's more e-commerce clients than we typically have seen in the past too.
Yeah, cool. Well, I want to wrap up here with something maybe a little more silly. I want to do some rapid fire questions for
Oh
you.
gosh, I could say anything. I can't be trusted.
I mean, I'm a little nervous about it if I'm being honest, but I think that it would be just a good, fun way for our audience to get to know you a little bit better and to find out what's really happening behind
All
that
right,
strategy
let's
brain
do
of
this.
yours. Okay, rapid fire. Okay, so
All
just
right,
first thing,
all right.
favorite condiment.
Oh, ketchup, come on.
I baited you with an easy one. Okay, best thing about summertime.
The weather? It's a lame answer.
That did feel a little disappointing. You want to try it again? No, I'm kidding. A show you're binging right now.
Shark Tank, but I'm always binging Shark Tank.
What do you love about Shark Tank?
Well, guys, same thing. I don't know. I just like to see people's ideas. And like, how the heck did they think about that? How do they think of
Yeah.
that? And also at the same time, why didn't I think of that? Like, come on.
I feel like whenever we watch Shark Tank, that's what Patrick's always saying. Like, just imagine if you were the guy that thought of that.
I know. And then the other part of me is thinking, like, why did you not come prepared? Like, you've seen the
Yeah.
show. What are you thinking?
Yeah. All right. Favorite food.
Pizza.
Worst advice you've ever received.
Oh, oh my gosh. I really don't know.
I thought it might be about bright colors.
Oh, oh my gosh. Yeah, that could definitely fall in that category. So when I was in college, a professor who will go unnamed, my last course ever, I gave this big presentation, got great remarks on the whole thing, but he said at the end, you know, he said, you're really going to have to wear bright colors to stand out in the business world because of my height. And I was
How
like,
tall are you?
I'm 5'1.5". But you know what? I was like, did he say that to me? Yeah, he did. I did not take that advice, and I have been just fine.
Your top is multicolored. I wouldn't say it's super bright, but
Whatever.
I mean,
Thanks
I'm
for.
rebelling here in my black.
The
Well, okay, one more. Best purchase in the past month.
dumpster.
Oh, awesome. All right, Lauren, as we wrap up, if anybody that's listening wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so? If they wanted to reach out and riff about some of the stuff we talked about or just to be able to connect in general, how should they do that?
You can reach me at my sanctuary email. That is probably great. It's Lauren at sanctuarymg.com, Lauren. And I would say that's the best place. Or you can always call me here at the office at Sanctuary. And they will route me the call because I typically work from home.
Awesome. Well, again, Lauren, thanks so much for joining me. It was really awesome to be able to get some insight as to what you guys are seeing in the strategy world, how it's pertained to recruitment, which I think is something a little bit different than what we normally talk about. So thanks for sharing all of that with us,
Sure.
and appreciate it.
Thank you, Courtney.
Talk to you soon.